Oh, hello. If you are watching, thank you because you have probably either donated to my Patreon or are doing a YouTube membership. So I just wanted to thank you for my support because, yeah, it means a lot. It allows me to do kind of stuff like this. So today, it is currently midnight right now, and I just came back from seeing Nolan's The Odyssey by Homer. and yeah, I'd like to share my thoughts on it because, yeah, it's what did I say here? I said my thoughts on this movie are complicated, which is what Emily Wilson in her translation of the Odyssey says Odysseus. So let me tell you about a story about a complicated man, and that's kind of this movie for me. We'll get into it, but yes, I'll have a non-spoiler section, and then I will go into spoilers for both the movie and for this 3,000-year-old poem, or like if you're gonna get spoiled by like Homer's The Odyssey, it's kind of late, so yeah, I will have a defining point where I'll start talking about spoilers. Um, just for I'm really looking over here because I have notes. Just for some background, I would call myself a big fan of Homer. I've read like the Iliad and the Odyssey. I've read a couple different translations of it now. Like my introduction was Emily Wilson's translation, which I think is a very great translation, despite some critics of it. It's a great translation. Some of her renderings of Greek is very beautifully done. Um, and I've also listened to Robert Fagel's translation, which the audiobook has, at least for the Odyssey, has Ian McKellen, who I know as Gus the theater cat, that's in Cats, also known for Gandalf, probably better known for Gandalf. Um, I recommend those translations; they're very good. And yeah, and just I also tell people to just read a bunch of different translations after reading it once all the way through because you can get different. It's a poem that was in there poems that are in Greek, so you'll never really fully grasp the original meaning unless you know Greek. So, oh, by the way, I like how I just went right into this. I went to the movie theater like this. Here we go. Let's see. I am I'm in my like my this is a chiton. This is a chiton, which is a traditional ancient Greek dress. This is basically like the t-shirt and shorts of ancient times, which would be worn by men and women. It's very flowy, very comfortable. I spent all day wearing this chiton. I went to a thrift store like this, and I went to get pizza like this, and I went to the movie. Absolutely nobody remarked on it. Like nobody cared. Nobody cared, which I thought was really funny. It would just people just like did not bat an eye at this, so which I think is really funny. So you can dress up like an ancient Greek and nobody would care. You understand here, I'll get into the review, I promise. You paid for this, so you get as much of me as you want. Um, the clothing, like okay, if you want Mediterranean clothing, ancient Mediterranean, they liked flowy material because the ancient Mediterranean was hot and like sweaty. And you definitely feel that with this. Like when you're walking around, you're like, wow, I am so cool. Like cool as in temperature wise. So you understand it. I'll get into this with the movie, where the movie, like, I am more historically accurate than anything in the movie, to be honest. At least with clothing, because yes, I should get into the movie. Okay, thoughts on the movie itself. My thoughts are complicated. I would definitely say it's worth seeing. It is a gorgeously shot movie. It's I okay. I think so. Okay, here I'll get into it. Some people I think will be. My experience was I was very disappointed with some aspects and some choices of the movie, and then really impressed with others. So for me it's a mixed bag. Definitely, I'm thinking definitely more positives than negatives. I think, but some negatives are pretty strong. First of all, it's an extremely well shot movie. If you know Christopher Nolan, he knows how to shoot movies. He knows how to do like really gorgeous sequences. Beautiful landscapes, beautiful um just cinematography in general. Some good light, like I don't know, use of lighting, and darkness and shadow. Just that you expect that from Christopher Nolan. That's par for the course for him. Um, okay, that's great. There's some improvements. Okay, I'm not okay. I'm not a person who believes something should always follow the source material. I think I will probably talk and compare a lot with the original Greek poem a lot throughout this review, but just know that like okay, if there's a change and it's a good change, that's a good change in my book. That's good. It's good. It doesn't have to fall. If it's an improvement on the source material, it's a good improvement regardless. Like following the source material does not mean something's great or good. You know, like if you follow the source material and it's good, that's good. If you don't follow the source material and it's still good, that's good too. Um, so yes, what other things do I praise? I really like the framing of the movie. Um, it is told. This is kind of typical Nolan style too. It's told kind of out of order. Lots of flashbacks, lots of flash forwards, lots of just you're jumping through time, jumping from character, like not just only just from characters' perspectives, point of views, but also in time. It's kind of a movie a lot about like remembering and storytelling, which is very good. I will praise the movie. That is very close to the source material. A lot of the Odyssey is characters remembering and characters retelling. A lot of people I would recommend reading the Iliad and the Odyssey. They're great. Definitely worth reading. I don't know. Big comments from me here. You should read the Odyssey and the Iliad because they're good. Um, a lot. I think if you read them, you'll be surprised how much of the story is told in flashback. Um, Here, I'm gonna put some images up real quick too, so you have some visuals, not just me talking. Um, Here we go. We got some Odyssey images here. I'll put the poster up, or I'll put the Trojan horse up. How about that? You get a little Trojan horse there. Um, please forgive me. Please forgive me if I'm a little disjointed here. I'm not used to the movie review format. This might be one of several takes. So if you're watching this, that means I went with this take. Other positives. So yeah, the story, the way the story is told is very interesting. Um, there's some extremely great sequences. I will say some of the if you're familiar with the Odyssey, there's some set pieces. You know, there's some epic fantasy mythology scenes that are everybody knows about. Like I don't know, this is not a spoiler. The Cyclops, um, the pig. I don't know the witch Circe, going down to Hades to speak with Tiresias. You know, they're like how he handled those sequences is awesome. You know, like I think those sequences are handled extremely well in this movie, and I think a lot of people will praise them. They're just visually interesting. They're executed in a very cool way. Music, um, like pacing's really good in them. So that's worth praising. Let's see, what else do we have? Um, I do like some of the direction of the morality of the story. There's stuff that is not in the original source material, or at least it's kind of downplayed in the original source material. That it makes the story of the Odyssey and the Trojan War more important. You know, like it's more narrative focus, more thematic focus. Like they're trying to say something bigger than the stories that what's just happening in the story. Um, I did like some of that. I did like some of that. And there's some good performances. I will say one of my favorite performances in the movie was um I didn't have a picture of Robert Patterson here. Robert Patterson as Antinous does a great job. I don't know, maybe I'm just colored by the fact that I like Robert Patterson just in general, but he does a pretty good job in this movie as kind of the asshole Antinous. Let me get a picture of him, Nolan. Um, he does a good performance. To be honest, we can start getting into the negatives. To be honest, let me put him up here. Let's see. Where's my buddy Robert Patterson? Here we go. Tenuous. Here he is. There's Robert Patterson as Antinous. I think he's the standout performance of the movie. A lot of the other actors, we'll start getting into my negative thoughts, non-spoilers. A lot of the other actors I think are either kind of blah, like they don't give too strong of a performance for me, at least personally. Um, or they're kind of bad. They're like who okay, Tom Holland, he's kind of a weak. Like it might be colored by the fact that I don't like Telemachus, and Telemachus in the source material of the Odyssey is not a super likable character. Um, Telemachus, for those who don't know, is Odysseus's son, young son. Here, I'm gonna again pull up pictures of the actors while I'm talking about them. Um, so here we'll remove you, Robert Pat. Robert Pat. You're the best part of your best, not best part, but best performance, I think, in the movie. Um, yeah, like okay. Tom Holland as Telemachus. eh, I didn't really. I don't really like Tom Holland in general as an actor, and what he's in. He doesn't. Okay, in there's one movie he did really well in, I think, The Impossible. He does. That's him very very young, but he's kind of meh. Um, Anne Hathaway's all right as Penelope. Um, oof. If we want to get into Matt Damon, I don't know if Matt Damon does a great job as Odysseus. I'll talk about this in the spoiler section, but it might be the fact that he doesn't feel like Odysseus, and that might be more of the screenwriting than the acting, the performance. But yeah, like I think there was a lot of kind of not super standout performances, and I don't know where to put that on, if it's the actors or if it's the material they're having to work with. It might be a mix, because I think like that's the thing is like Robert Patterson has the same material that they do, but I think he gives a stronger performance. But yeah, that was another one of my criticisms. Another kind of for me is I'm not the biggest fan of the dialogue in this movie. It feels clunky in some areas, very clunky in some areas. Um, very, very, yeah. I would say clunky. I would say clunky. Some of the dialogue feels like forced. Like characters are just kind of like telling you things. It doesn't flow in a natural way, like a conversation should. Um, and then like, ooh, there were some cringe lines in this. At least for me, there were some cringe lines. Like, um, one of the lines that I wrote down as soon as I got out of the movie was, our civilization of bronze is collapsing," or our civilization is like, okay, a big component of the story is that the characters are kind of aware that they're living in the Bronze Age collapse, so they voice that they're living in the Bronze Age collapse, and you're just like, it just feels really forced, like when people talk like that, when people talk about what they're living through, like aware that their civilization is collapsing, or it's just forced. It's forced, and it kind of is like, it feels clunky. Clunky is the way to describe it, because I feel this way about some of the dialogue about the mythological elements too. Feel clunky, and granted that some of that is on the source material itself, where like you need these characters to go places, and they need to kind of be forced to go a direction. So the dialogue, some of the acting, the dialogue, not my favorite. um let's see. And uh some of the stuff I'll save for the spoiler section. There's some extra material that I think is a little weak, you know, like there's a I will talk about this in the spoiler section. There are added scenes to the story stuff that is not in the original source material, and then stuff that I don't even think is in mythology, because there's stuff that is added in that is from Greek mythology, but there's also stuff in here that is added in that's from just a movie original. And some of that is not my favorite because it feels like busy work for certain characters. It feels like mini bosses, you know, like it feels like video game, you know, like mini boss. We need to fill in some time here. Um, so yeah, like okay. So okay. Before I move on, I really, really am not a fan of some of the art direction. Some of the costumes, a lot of the costumes, I'm not a huge fan of. And I think I would say that. See, okay, people are gonna yell at me here that I'm being poo-poo. It needs to be historically accurate, kind of thing. Um, I think I would say this even if it's not historically accurate, you know? Like, I think some of the costumes suck. The costumes kinda just suck. Um, like, God, look at Telemachus in here, like, it just is not visually interesting to me, and then it doesn't let's see if I can pull up Telemachus again. Um, yeah. We got like these kind of t-shirts and pants, just kind of gray, blah. So there's that. I don't really like too many. I there okay. One some of the costumes I will say, like the Agamemnon armor. Originally, I was a critic of it, and now I kind of am like, this is pretty cool. The Agamemnon armor is really cool, just and how it's lit is very nice in the story or in the scenes. I like his little here he is, Agamemnon here. He's got his little ponytail of bones of vertebra, and he's got his tall crest. That I like. I like. Like his costume is probably like the only costume that I really like, and everybody else I really don't like. So costumes is kind of like a blah for me because you. That's the thing with it's coloring me here. That's the thing with ancient Greece and just with fantasy in general. You can just go hog wild with the costumes and what you want characters to dress as and stuff. If you're not like if you don't care about historical accuracy, just go crazy then. And I think with this, some they didn't go crazy enough. Like that's the thing is this is a good the Agamemnon armor here is a good level of crazy. I wish we got more of it, you know, like I wish all the characters had armor that's kind of ridiculous. Um so costumes, not the biggest fan. Like Calypso and her fishnet thing, like that's a it just feels like crappy um, Game of Thrones armor here, like just kind of just lame. Like it's just not super interesting, you know, in my opinion. Like you have a lot of opportunity. And then second, second, I really did not care for a lot of the sets. A lot of the sets I did not care for. A lot of the non-naturalistic sets, because a lot of this movie takes place outside or in a cave or on beaches. Um, a lot of the sets I did not care for, like Ithaca and the interior of Ithaca and the exterior and interior of Ithaca, where it's this big. Let me see if I can get a picture of it for us here. Um, hmm. I don't know. They just feel like ruins, you know, everything feels like ruins. Like this is a thing that a lot of movies and TV shows have a problem with is they depict ancient or historical buildings as ruins in the time that they're supposed to be set, which is just not that's not how that works, you know? Like they would be I don't know, thriving looking places. They wouldn't look like modern tourist attractions, you know, where you walk into like a medieval castle and it's the walls are bare and they're stark and gray, or everything is just like blocks, you know, just blocks, and they just don't feel lived in. Everything's faded, you know, like it. That's not what these places would look like when you're living in them. People they just wouldn't look like that at all. You know, people when people live inside a building, and especially if they're royalty or nobility or something like that, you make it look good, you know, like like I'm not living in like a place with like holes in the ceiling and paint chipping on the walls, you know, like it it bothers me. It's just visually not that interesting because they that's the thing is like the palace at Ithaca is based on the interior. I can tell as like an archaeology nerd. It's based on the Palace of Minos at Knossos, or Knossos, however you want to say it. But here's the thing: is here I'm going to pull a picture of Knossos here. Here's the thing: is that they make it. Here's Knossos. Like I'll pull a picture of Knossos, a reconstruction of what Knossos would have looked like. And you can tell that they're using this. They're using these as historical reference. Here's Knossos. So yeah, the interior of Odysseus's home, Ithaca, is his house, looks like this in the movie, but with all the colors gray and muted, it went the paint chipping and with stone on the wall. Like it does not look this beautiful. Like this chair, like this throne. This is a very famous throne in the Palace of Minos, which is it's an archaeological, it's an object that's real. Is featured in the movie. These pillars are kind of featured in the movie, but all this color is just zapped out of the movie. It just is all drab and stuff. So you watch it and you're like, I wish you did not go with that art direction because this just looks like it looks like we're in like a bombed out ruin. It looks like we're in like France, World War II or Stalingrad. You know, why are people living here? It's just not the choice that I would have for it, and I just don't know if it looks good. And just when you have something like this, I would love to see this reconstructed and people in this environment. That'd be just so pretty. That's Nolan's art direction, fine. I personally just don't. It doesn't do much for me. So yeah, clothing and some of the sets are just kind of not great. But the visual effects with a lot of stuff is very great. Like I talked about this when I was talking about the big sequences. Some of the the effects look great for some of the mythological things going on. The battle scenes look good. Just a lot of great visuals in there. So yeah. So okay, like I said, for this is towards the end of the non-spoiler section. We're about 20 minutes in. I would say for non-spoilers, it's a good movie, very good movie, probably very technically impressive, very visually impressive. Some great pacing, some great soundtrack. I neglected to do that. Great soundtrack, great sound design. Some of like the screams and sounds of creatures and special like I like they sound good. So technically a very impressive movie. I think some of the dialogue can be very weak and a little cringe is the way I'll phrase it. At least me personally, I don't know if it's great. Some of the performances are not my favorite from the actors, um, but it's definitely worth seeing. Definitely worth seeing. I would recommend it. For me, if I had to give like a rating to this, it would be like a. I'm thinking like letterbox rating. I'd say like this is like a 7 or an 8. You know, like it. This is a solid movie. I'd want to watch it again. You know, like it's one of those movies where I'm like, I'm not. I'd be interested to watch this again. Um, and so yeah, non-spoiler over. Let's go into the spoilers. So it's an adaptation of Homer's Odyssey. I will say they adapted way more stuff than I thought they would. They like that's the thing is the Odyssey. It's probably a hard story to adapt just for many reasons. For one thing is it's told in a really weird way where there's you're introduced to a character, you're introduced to Telemachus, and you see Odysseus's situation at home, and then he tries looking for his father, looking for news of his father, and then he's told a story by somebody, and that's flashback, and then sometimes there's a flashback within a flashback. You know, that's the thing is a lot of the story is not told um, in the present. Most of the story is told in the past, and like what people think of as the big chunk of the story, because I think a lot of people read the Odyssey, or at least a chunk of the Odyssey in school, is they assume the majority of the Odyssey is Odysseus coming home, and that's not what the Odyssey is. There's not a lot of the Odyssey is Odysseus comes home probably, what is it? Somebody once like showed it to me on like a thing, like either it's a third or two-thirds of the way through the book. So a big chunk of the story is Odysseus in hiding at home, which is, a lot of people don't really think of that because a lot of times the adaptations have it wrap up very quickly. So I will say the adaptation, Nolan's Odyssey, does a very great job of kind of getting that weird flashbacks and being retold and being remembered and being sung, storytelling aspect, which is, it's hard to, it's I could see that being very weird to adapt. So um so yeah, a lot of stuff is adapted. A lot of stuff is adapted. I would say the great sequences of the movie, the best where the movie really shines, is the parts where, um okay, I wrote them down. We have the Cyclops, Polyphemus in his cave, Cersei and the pigs, extremely well done. Oh my gosh, the Cersei and her pigs scene is, I where the part of the movie where I locked in. Sometimes you're watching a movie and you're like, wow, I'm really digging this. And that's, for me, it was visiting Cersei. The retelling by Menelaus of the Trojan horse, of the infiltration of Troy, and them hiding in the horse. Amazingly done, well done sequence. Great pacing, great sound design, great music. It's being, I don't know, it's right here. You can see it right next to me here. This is the horse getting pulled in by the Trojans. Awesome sequence. And then just like, yeah, the buildup of them trying to open the gates and stuff. That's a great sequence. The sequence in Hades is very good. I think how they depicted Hades. Odysseus has to visit Hades. He has to sacrifice a creature like a lamb or a sheep, and the blood, and then the spirits eat the blood and they can talk to Odysseus. I think that's very well done. So that's very well. Those are some very well done sequences. I think those are where the movie is at its best. Um, I will say where the movie, it can be a little mixed is with the added material, because the movie does feel the need to add stuff. Um, they give Antinous, like one of the lead suitors, a backstory. Um, that is, yeah, it's all right. It's all right. Gives him something. Gives him some type of connection to Odysseus, as opposed to like no connection. You know, in the source material, Odysseus just shows up and he has no idea who these guys are. You know, he's like, who the fuck are you guys? Like I guess he knows their family, but yeah. Um, they added some stuff with Helen that was kind of interesting. That Helen of Troy is scarred by the war, like physically and mentally. Um, and there's almost like a little bit of a feminist reading with Helen, that that she and this is, that's the thing, is I think I could see people being upset with this being like woke or something like that. In the source material, Helen is kind of aware that, and partially that she feels guilty a little bit for, at least in some translations, that she feels a little guilty that she is responsible for the war and all this death. And that is in the movie as well. They chose to expand on that. One of the added source materials is like Antinous sending bandits, like these guys, to go after Telemachus while he's away. And there's like a mini boss fight. There's like a stupid little action scene with Telemachus and Odysseus in hiding. Not a fan of that. I think that sucked. The movie could have just gone without that. Um, I think they might have just wanted to have more action. So that's some added stuff that I didn't care for. Oh, one big added thing is that they added sea people. You know, the sea peoples, the sea peoples that everybody talks about in the Bronze Age collapse. They added them in. Like that's something that's not in um Homer's Iliad or Odyssey. Okay, here's the thing. Sea people are like a modern concept. You know, okay, I'll have to explain this to you. They would not have been called the sea people. Okay, for people that don't know, Bronze Age collapse. The Iliad and the Odyssey takes place towards the end of the Bronze Age, and recounts somewhat real historical events. Like it seems like there was a historical city of Troy that was besieged and destroyed by an invading force. Um, and we now know archaeologically that that invading force probably was made up of Greeks that are now known as the Sea People. Like at least the Sea People is what we call this confederation of warriors that went around that seem to have been destroying several cities in along the coast of the Mediterranean towards the end of during the Bronze Age collapse. They destroyed Troy. They destroyed Ugarit probably. They destroyed many cities. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones I know by name, my heart. Here's the thing: is this confederation of warriors? They're kind of been they've been retroactively conflated together into a single group that is referred to as the Sea Peoples because they kind of came from the ocean. They were a boat faring people. That the thing about the Sea People is that there probably were several. They were not a single invasion. There are many Sea Peoples, and they were probably never thought of themselves collectively as a group. Um, the word Sea People, like the term Sea People, is a thing that comes out from the I think late 1800s, and I think it's a French translator, a French historian, archaeologist just decided to call these groups the Sea People because they were never called this in ancient times. They were typically referred to by their tribal name, like the Sea People. They were the Pelesset, Shardana, Sheridan. Like they had names. They had these weird names that are most of them are otherwise historically unattested. So we just have no idea where they came from or where. This is where the mystery of the Sea People was. Like we have no idea where they came from or where they originated, except maybe the Pelesset, who probably came from Crete as a they were like a ethnically Greek probably people. So that's the thing. So there's a bit of a historical anachronism. This is a little silly when you think of archaeology. They would not have been called the Sea People, and they probably like would saying that they came from the sea. I guess they came from the sea actually, and we do actually have like letters in Ugarit that are saying that like there's an enemy from the sea. But like, were those the Sea Peoples? Were those an unrelated group? We don't know. That's the thing. Is a lot of the Bronze Age collapse is weird and mysterious, and a lot of our theories are like people on the outside who are not archaeologists or historians assume them to be true, where they probably they're too neat, and history typically is not neat. Anyways, that was a roundabout way. The Sea People are brought up in this movie. Like part of the motivation for Telemachus and Penelope to try to find Odysseus or try to have Telemachus become king himself are motivated by legends of the Sea People. They're like, the Sea People are coming and they're ending civilization. Our civilization's ending. Which is a little silly because people in this time period, like, that's the thing, is we have the hindsight of history to say that this was the end of an era. The Bronze Age was coming to an end. All the trade routes, all the writing, the linear A, linear B. We have the hindsight of history that these things are going to be abandoned and they're not going to come back for several hundred years after the Greek Dark Ages. People then would not have thought that, like in the same sense that like Romans, if you were to tell a Roman that the Roman Empire is falling in 400 AD or something like that, a Roman would have been like, no, it's not. Like the Roman Empire is not falling. Like we're still here. Like there's a little bit of like goofy. Like this is very goofy for me to see as an archaeologist person into history, that people like, you see ancient people that are like aware of like these distinctions that we're aware of, like retroactively, that historians have like created, because like in reality, like, we have no idea what direction history is going. Like we're not sitting around saying that like, I guess people do say this about America. They're like, America's falling. Oh. But like, we're not aware that it actually is, we're not aware of like of these trends. So it's kind of goofy. It's a little goofy. Fine. They use the Sea People as like a metaphor, a thematic connection that I think is very, very good. I think that's really cool because, like, again, as archaeologists, we know that the Sea People were probably the heroes at Troy and the sea people in archaeology were probably one of the same. Like the that's a thing, and that's a cool revelation. I think a lot of people talk about that, and the movie uses that. Like the whole movie, they're kind of in fear of the sea people coming and destroying their civilization, destroying the Greeks or whatever. And there's a moment where Penelope and Odysseus are like, "We're the sea people. Like us Greeks were the sea people this whole time. Like we were gearing up to fight people, but we are the invaders. We're the people that have gone and violated." The movie makes a big deal out of guest right in a way that I think the original source material doesn't. The original source material does care about guest right. Like, okay, they're making a bigger statement about humanity and society. Um, and I think that's very cool. That's a very interesting take to direction to take this in. Where I think so. One of the main themes of the story is that guest right is important. That taking care of strangers and the less fortunate and the weak and beggars and people that are destitute is very important. And you should it's the responsibility of the host of all of us to take in guests and treat our guests well and feed them and clothe them and house them. And this was something that was very important in ancient times. You see this in the Bible with story of Lot and the angels, and you see this in the Odyssey with Odysseus. He and his guise as a beggar. He asked for guest right. Telemachus asks for guest right. Odysseus tries to get guest right from the Cyclops and is rejected. Like, it's an important part that like you should treat. This is where the movie takes us in kind of, I think, a little more than what the source material does, which is neither good nor bad. You know, like I the movie has, I think at one point they say you should treat others the way that you want to be treated, which is kind of like, it feels like a very Christian kind of thing, you know. Feels like a very Christian and modern thing. Ancient times they had a version of that. Guest right was a version of that, but here's the thing about ancient times is they still had slavery and they still had nobility and commoners and stuff. And that's the thing, is like when people say that like the Odyssey, Homer's The Odyssey is about taking care of the less fortunate and stuff like that. It's like, it is to a point. Like that's the thing, is Odysseus, when he is a beggar, is a noble beggar. Like he is a beggar of a noble background. He is the son of Deucalion, a king of Crete, you know, and there's this idea in ancient times and in the Odyssey that yes, like you should treat people according to their station. And it's about like your background, you know, like that you, if you're a noble, you deserve noble treatment. If you're a commoner or like a slave, you deserve that level of treatment. And I think this is where people like overextend it. Like, you know, this movie is making it about that, like you should treat everybody the way that you should be treated, which is how it's great. That's how we should do it today. But in ancient times, no, they wouldn't have that. They wouldn't have that sweet, kind thing where you're like, yes, we should treat everybody equally and everybody kind, and we need to extend. Like that's really not like the Iliad and the Odyssey has elements of that. Yes, like the Trojans and the Greeks, like there is an element that we should treat each other as respect, with a level of respect, even when we're at war with each other. But like that doesn't extend to slaves, you know. That doesn't extend like like it's like they earn their lot in life, like that kind of thing. But the movie decides to take that and expand on it, and then expand on it like in a big way. Where I think a huge moral of the movie is they take guest right and extend it to the whole world, all to humanity, that all humans should extend the guest right to each other. And that is how we keep civilization. Because yeah, like the realization is that like really the sea people who are destroying civilization are those who do not respect Zeus's laws, guest right. There's kind of like a very Christian, a lot of this is very Christian. Like this is a very modern Christian morality, modern Christian religious kind of understanding, that they're kind of recontextualizing, but it's fine. So I did like that. I like that aspect that they're trying to say something deep, that the the taking of Troy itself was a violation of guest right because the Trojans accepted this gift and were tricked by it, and that's that violates something about humans and causes death and war, and that we need to the key to keeping civilization, whatever, like society, is we treat each other kindly and we don't do stuff like that. We don't act selfishly. That's fine. That's good. I like that. I like that as a theme for the story. Um, but here's the thing. This is my big hot take. My big hot take, if there's a hot take that you will see in this video, watching this out there, is Odysseus in Nolan's The Odyssey doesn't feel like Odysseus. Like that's the thing. This is my hot take is that this is not Odysseus in really any meaningful way. Um, like at every chance. Okay, the Odyssey and the Iliad. Let's focus on the Odyssey. The Odyssey is a fascinating poem, a fascinating story in the sense that everybody does something problematic in it. And I think even in ancient times you were supposed to interpret it as problematic. Like this movie, at any chance it has, tries to sanitize Odysseus and tries to make him likable and moral than anybody else. So like, yeah, Odysseus has this moment in the movie where he is like kind of like woke, he's kind of like woke. He's like, yes, like war is the root of all evil, or violating guest right. We need to treat everybody as equals. Like, and that's not Odysseus. That's not the ancient Odysseus. Ancient Odysseus, like the Iliad and Odyssey are interesting where they're not entirely pro-war and they're not entirely anti-war either. They're very humanizing. The Iliad, it spends a huge portion of it humanizing the non-Greek characters like Hector and Priam, and that's, you're supposed to feel conflicted about the taking of Troy, that like, oh my gosh, these are kind, noble people, and in some instances more kind than our main character, like our Greek characters like Achilles or Ajax or Agamemnon. Like you're supposed to feel that way. But yeah, Odysseus saying that he's anti-war is like that's kind of out of character for him. And let me get to the sanitization. So a lot of stuff in this movie's cut, and I will get to that. But let me talk about the sanitization of Odysseus that occurs in this movie. I don't know if they're like, here's the thing. Odysseus in the original Odyssey is like an asshole. He is an awful person. Not just kind of. He is an awful person. At different instances. Like he's not entirely, you're not supposed to entirely hate him, but you're not supposed to entirely like him either, because he does incredibly horrible things even for ancient times. And I think you're supposed to feel this way in the source material, like in ancient, for an ancient audience. Let me get when I'm talking about Odysseus, like ancient Odysseus, let me get a picture of ancient Odysseus here. Let's see. Yeah, I'll get my piece of pottery that I use for Odysseus typically. There we go. Look at that. That's good. Okay. Like Odysseus, okay. For one thing, one huge thing they kind of cut is, oh, this is big. I really like, this was one of the things where I'm like, movie, I can't believe you did this. They cut the infamous Polyphemus, the Cyclops dialogue. So one of the most famous episodes of the entire Iliad Odyssey of Homer in general is Odysseus's tricking of Polyphemus the Cyclops, where they're trapped in his cave and Odysseus tries to talk to him to get guest right from him. And the Cyclops violates guest right. He eats Odysseus and then he eats him up. And Odysseus and his men realize they're screwed. They're stuck in this cave with this monster that is horrible. Is everything that is against the customs of civilization for the Greeks. What like it is basically like a barbarian, a giant barbarian that eats other humans. Like this probably was the nightmare of ancient Greeks, like the Cyclops is. And Odysseus talks to the Cyclops, and the Cyclops talks back. And Odysseus tricks the Cyclops by giving him wine and getting him drunk, and then stabs out his eye. And then the Cyclops, and in order to trick the Cyclops, Odysseus doesn't reveal his name. He says that he's nobody or no man, depending on your translation. Um, and that very cleverly tricks the Cyclops. So when the Cyclops gets stabbed in the eye, for instance, he tries yelling out to the other Cyclopses and says, "Nobody's stabbing me, nobody's hurting me." And the other Cyclops is like, "Oh, okay, I guess so." And that's a very kind of clever. It's one of the most clever, the most fun. Like, that's the thing, is it's funny. Like, it's funny like that. It's like that anybody would be fooled by that. But also, it's so quintessentially like Odysseus, like that he's the trickster. Like, Odysseus is like the smartest of the Greeks. He's the trickster, and it's supposed to be kind of fun. Like, there's a level of fun and horror mixed in there, and the movie's kind of afraid to do that because okay, here's the thing. This is a good like the whole Cyclops episode is a good microcosm of Odysseus himself, where Odysseus, he's clever and he's smart and he's funny. He's funny. This is why I like. I'll pull up. This is why I like Sean Bean as Odysseus here, and Troy. Look at him. Look how happy he is. Look how happy Sean Bean is to be Odysseus here. Odysseus is kind of fun, and there's a level of humor in the Odyssey. He's the trickster. He's like Loki or something like that. And this is why he was probably like a beloved character. That's kind of removed. And so not only that, but Odysseus is like an asshole. So when he successfully tricks the Cyclops, he escapes the cave. In Homer, Odysseus reveals himself. He says, "I am not nobody. I am Odysseus. Tell the other Cyclopses, tell everybody that it was Odysseus who tricked you." And that is, in a way, that is Odysseus' character. That he cannot just he needs fame. He's an egomaniac. He needs fame. He hungers for fame, and that's his undoing. His hunger for fame is kind of his own undoing. Because now the Cyclops knows his name, and Odysseus in the source material is really funny, where he like says that I am Odysseus, son of Laertes from Ithaca. Like, he doxes himself, which I think is really funny. He like gives the ancient equivalent of doxing himself, and then now Polyphemus, who's like tortured now, like knows his full name, address, and is like calls down on Poseidon, his father, to do it. So that whole element's cut from the movie because they just did not have the Cyclops talk, besides just murmuring a little bit, which is a huge shame. That was one of the biggest disappointments from the movie for me. Because like that's such a big opportunity, like that tells you so much about Odysseus, and that's just an extremely iconic part of the story. But besides that, the Cyclops sequence is great. Like I talked about this in the non-spoil section. It's gorgeously done. Like, the effects on the Cyclops is cool. The design with the twisted eye and how huge he is, and he's like stomping around. It reminds me a lot of one of my favorite movies is The Green Knight. There's giants in The Green Knight, and I like how those giants are executed. So yeah, so that's one example of the sanitization of Odysseus. Another example is they cut the infamous. A lot of movies and adaptations cut this because it's uncomfortable. Like, that's the thing is, I think that's intentional. I think because, okay, the ending point of the Odyssey is weird, where Odysseus comes home relatively early and he returns to his house. He has all these little sub adventures where he meets his son, reveals himself to his son, reveals himself to his father, Laertes. Depending on your interpretation, possibly reveals himself to Penelope early, and she picks up on it. And I think the movie definitely plays into that. And then he has the test where he strings the bow and then he shoots. And then after he reveals himself, he kills the suitors. In the source material, okay, in this movie, let's talk about the movie first. In the movie, he has this like big epic John Wick fight with like 60 people, like, where he's like it's kind of ridiculous. It's kind of like a kung fu movie where like this one guy is defeating tons and tons of suitors, like all at once. and then and finally he kills, and they're all the bad ones, these are all the bad guys that signed up for this, all the mean suitors. And he kills Antinous, and then all the other suitors who were just kind of following suit bow down and accept him as their king. Um, this differs, in my opinion, this differs dramatically from the source material, where in the source material, in Homer, the slaughter of the suitors is that it is a slaughter early on. There's a level of like the suitors are like they're fighting back and defending themselves, and Odysseus is kind of killing the ones that are the evil ones. He kills the bad ones. He kills Antinous, for example. I think he kills Antinous first, and there's another suitor and that's the thing, is the Odyssey goes out of its way to say that there's different levels of suitors. There's the evil suitors who are the assholes that are getting what's coming to them, and then there's the suitors who are just the suitors who are not particularly evil. They're eating Odysseus's food. They're overstaying their welcome, but they're not particularly evil. And once Odysseus kills Antinous in this slaughter, one of the suitors that is not as bad as the other ones is like, we will leave, Odysseus. We're like, please forgive us. Like, we did not participate in this. We will leave. Please let us go. And like Odysseus and Laertes and his son and Telemachus like reject that and is like, no, like you all need to die. And they kill everybody. They kill all the suitors. This is the slaughter of the suitors. Let me see if I can get a picture of the slaughter of the suitors and maybe just get the one's name right. Like it's meant to make you uncomfortable. Where, yeah, Eurymachus is one of the suitors, and he tries to blame it all on Antinous, like the single bad one. And then there's Amphimionus. Like Amphimionus is, yeah, he's one of the good suitors. Yeah. That's the thing is, yeah, okay, yeah. There's Antinous, there's Eurymachus, who are like bad guys. They're the bad suitors, and then there's one suitor, Amphimionus, who is the most sympathetic of them, and he's like actually nice, and he like tries to like leave, and he dies anyways. So like, I think you're supposed to feel weird about that. As the audience, you're like, wow, like Odysseus kind of like has a bloodlust here. Like this is this guy actually that good? And to top it all off too is the killing of the maids, servants, slave girls. Let's say like the correct translation. This is some of the drama here. Is Emily Wilson's translation opted to translate the maids as slave girls, which I think is more accurate because that's what they were in ancient times. So for context, the suitors that are trying to woo Odysseus's wife, trying to marry Odysseus's wife Penelope, and overstaying their welcome, being very disrespectful in his own house, they sleep with many of Odysseus's servants or maids or slave girls, female slaves. And I think it's Telemachus who is driving this. So after they kill all the suitors, Telemachus and I think Odysseus is like, we need to kill the slave girls. We need to kill them all. And Telemachus has a very evil streak here in the Odyssey, where he is like, the sword is too good for them. They deserve to be hung. They don't deserve to die by the sword. They deserve to be hung in like a gruesome fashion. And they kill all these women whose only crime was sleeping with the suitors. And in the context of the ancient world, these are slaves. They're against their will, presumably, right? That's uncomfortable for both that's uncomfortable for both Odysseus and Telemachus, that these are our main characters, and yet they're murdering women that are more like, there's the idea that they were scheming with the suitors or something like that, but like it's uncomfortable. So there, yeah, Odysseus's execution of the female slaves. Yeah, let's see. So there's aspects of that. Oh yeah, and anyways, what I was saying is they cut. So instead of having, so they've cut that. They've cut that aspect. The slaughter of the suitors is more like an epic John Wick thing, as opposed to like killing somewhat in a way that's making you uncomfortable. These are some of these guys are bad guys, but not like the worst guys, and some are relatively sympathetic. Like like in the original Odyssey, the one most sympathetic suitor argues that they should not try to kill Telemachus. Like he's like that's not right, and still he dies anyways. Or the execution of the slave girls who slept with the suitors, whose only crime was sleeping with the suitors, as far as we know. Removing that sanitizes Odysseus and makes him more moral. Same with the Cyclops dialogue. Instead of him having the no man thing and then having his ego get in front of him, that him being egotistical, needing his name known, is what gets it. Like that's cut too, because all Odysseus has done, they have a level of it, but all he does is take a pot shot at the Cyclops and make him angry. And that doesn't have the same effect as him like feeling the need to like be egotistical and reveal himself. Like the only like he could live, like that's the thing, is like he had the choice of living, making it home quicker, and just people don't know this deed of his, or at least like they won't hear it from the Cyclops, or they know the deed and he gets home way later. So it's like Odysseus is supposed to be like an asshole. Odysseus is supposed to be an asshole. He's supposed to have an ego, and he's supposed to have a violent temper, and possibly be like a murderer. Like that aspect's there. And also he is an adulterer too. Like this is ancient times, so like adultery doesn't mean the same thing it does now. But he chooses to live with Calypso, the sea witch, for 8 years. And the movie has in the Odyssey, like he has chosen to do this. Like he is not. I guess like there's a level of that, like Calypso's keeping him a little bit against his will. I'm trying to remember this aspect of it. Keeping like, yeah, like there's a like. Let's see. I'm trying to recall my memory here. She keeps him on there for 7 years on her island. The movie again gives him a little level of plausible deniability, where Calypso in the movie is feeding Odysseus lotus, which is a separate incident. These are two distinct episodes, and she's basically drugging him and numbing his mind, so he doesn't really know that he needs to go home and he needs to see his wife. He wants to see her, but like subconsciously he's like collecting wood, and she says like, over the years I was seeing you subconsciously wanting to go home. Again, that's a little bit of a sanitizing Odysseus, where Odysseus is not that much of a he's not like lobotomized, in this incident. Like he is choosing, he's choosing to live with Calypso and have sex with her and have immortality with her. Um, it it's only kind of later that he chooses to leave. Yeah, he enjoys sexual pleasures with her. He gets to be her mortal husband on Ortygia. Um, and it's only like later, only later that like he enjoys it. And then there's not like this level of him being like tricked or kept against his will. Um, like Calypso is like keeping him a little bit, but like he has more of a choice in it. And in the movie, he kind of doesn't have a choice, where he's being drugged and his mind's numb. He's not in his right mind. So there's a level of sanitizing Odysseus here, where there's many incidents where they're making him far more moral, far more likable to the audience. And they've toned down his assholeness, because that's the thing, is like Odysseus, his whole thing is kind of like he's an asshole, like he's a clever asshole. He's the lovable rapscallion, like in the ancient world, and I guess a lot of cultures in general have this version of the trickster god, that this is like you hate him, but you still love him at the same time, and you root for him even though he's bad, like, and I think that's what makes him compelling. So yeah. That was a change that you can maybe they wanted. You could say that they're telling a different story, but like in my personal opinion, like this is not Odysseus. Like Odysseus in Nolan's The Odyssey is not Odysseus of Homer's Odyssey. Like these are very different characters. They're very different characters. Um, so yeah. Okay, cut stuff that was cut besides Cyclops, the nobody Cyclops thing. That's a big thing that's cut. They almost totally cut Odysseus's father, Laertes, Telemachus's grandfather. In the source material, I think I think he's mentioned offhandedly once. Um, in the source material, Odysseus has left behind his son, and he's also left behind his father, Laertes, and both of them are still alive. And it's almost a little weird, and I can understand why they cut Laertes. That like Odysseus is away, and there's this idea that his house is in ruin because um, there's not a man of the house, you know. But Telemachus is pretty old, and Telemachus probably should be ruling because he's of age, but he's kind of weak and wimpy, you know. This is in the source material too, and you're like, okay, then let's have Laertes, like Odysseus's father, rule then. And there's a reason not to. I think he's weak with grief. He misses his son. He's old. Um, it does give you an insight into weird, like how we think of how a king, because Odysseus is like a king of Ithaca. He's not really a king. Like I think that carries a lot of baggage that is inaccurate because like Odysseus is supposed to be like extremely poor in the Odyssey. He's supposed to be like dirt broke, you know, especially compared to like Menelaus. Menelaus has gold and like a palace. Odysseus has like a lodge, you know, and fire to sleep around, and he has weapons, but like, you know, you get the sense that he's like we would probably think of as a chieftain. um Anyways, the fact that like Odysseus can be king while his father's still alive is kind of distinct from our idea of what a king should be, like that a king should directly follow his father after he dies. Apparently it looks like a king can retire in Homer's world, and it seems like Nolan thought that was too complicated and that was too many characters. So like they cut Laertes and kind of fused him with the character of Eumenios. Eumenios is, let me just check. Odysseus, not Odysseus, Odyssey. Eumenios, who is basically like the loyal slave to Odysseus. Let me see, Eumaeus, who's played by John Leguizamo. Eumaeus, yeah, Eumaeus is like the note. Like we see in Homer's The Odyssey, you see two different types of slaves. You see Eumaeus, who's the loyal slave, and I think Eumaeus is of noble background. Like I think he was once a nobleman or something like that. And so there's an element of like even amongst slaves, like your nobility matters, where like the slave of noble background is a good guy, you know, is moral, while the slave of let's see, what was the bad slave's name? I'm trying to recall. Evil slave. What is this? Disloyal. Yeah. Yeah. Malthius, Melanthius. I'm so bad with pronunciation. Please forgive me. I usually like practice this stuff, but there's an evil slave too, who is of humble background. Where's I going with this? Yeah, so they've combined Eumaeus with Laertes, and which is a different dynamic because like I like the aspect of like Odysseus finding his father, his old father, who has kind of lost his mind without his son. It's fine. Merging characters, fine. There's no Nausicaa. They totally cut the Phoenicians, which is fine. You know, the Nausicaa. If for people who are curious, Nausicaa, you know, like the Studio Ghibli, like that, the name comes from the Odyssey. Like this is the Nausicaa stuff is a seldom adapted part of the Odyssey. You don't really typically see it adapted anywhere, so I'm not surprised they cut it. But anyways, the idea is like Odysseus on his return home, so he's left Calypso, and he's on his raft, and he ends up in the land of the Phoenicians, which is like a fictional people. I think even in ancient times they were kind of thought of as fictional, who basically the only purpose they serve is for Odysseus to recount his travels to. and they cut that entirely here. They instead gave that role to Calypso, which I think is fine. That passage, see, unfortunately, I think, because yeah, instead they have Odysseus go directly from Calypso to to uh Ithaca, which is fine. But I do like the Phoenician, some of the dialogue in the Nausicaa Phoenician section where Odysseus is recounting his adventures and how he ended up here. And there's a very good line that is rendered very beautifully by Emily Wilson. That I think, well, how does she render it? She renders it as, um, "I've been so long from my family and friends that it hurts," or something. And it's like, "I've been away for so long it hurts." Let me find it real quickly. It's one of my favorite translations from her, and one of my favorite I don't know, parts of the Odyssey is him just recounting it. And you have this, you feel this mourning from him, and it's a very human thing, like I have felt that way. Um, so long it hurt. Love that, beautiful. Yeah. Here's how Emily Wilson translates it. She says, this is him asking for help to get back home. He says, "Now help me, please. Get back home. Get in quickly. I miss my family. I have been gone so long it hurts." And you're just like, one of my favorite parts of the whole Odyssey. Beautifully rendered line, and just like it resonates. It's something that resonates so deeply. I don't know, maybe it was because I was reading the Odyssey when I was away from home. I was on an extended trip away from home, and it was snowing. I was in Pittsburgh, of all places, staying in an Airbnb for a month, far from my friends and family. I was in a town where I only knew like one or two people, and I knew I wasn't going to see my parents for a long time. And I just remember reaching that line, just like getting like, man, I understand that feeling. I've been away for so long it hurts. So it's a shame that they cut that. I would have liked that. Like maybe my criticism is Matt Damon's acting. Maybe it's the script or something. Like I wanted a little bit more sad, mourning Odysseus. I don't know if we get too much of that from him. Um, Another cut thing, they've combined the Lotus Eater thing is there, but they've kind of moved it to a different part. They cut poor Nestor, elderly Nestor. They like streamlined the Telemachus story where Telemachus is looking for Odysseus, news about his father, so he's going for place, and he first goes to Nestor, the old man, this like 120-year-old guy that like ramble. It's kind. I think it's intended to be a humorous part of the story where Telemachus is trying to get information from Nestor. Nestor is an elderly man, and like old people do, they like tell these meandering, wandering stories, and Telemachus is like trying to get him to stop talking. Um, and it's funny because Telemachus befriends Nestor's son, and they become like bros. They become like blood brothers, which is kind of fun. So they cut that whole episode out. I think you should have kept it in. It's kind of fun. It gives Telemachus more to do, but they decided to streamline it and just have him go directly to Menelaus. And the Menelaus stuff is good. One another thing that I really am disappointed that they cut is they cut some of the Hades when Odysseus goes to the blind poet Tiresias, the blind seer Tiresias to get his fortune. He goes to the gates of Hades, and um, in the Odyssey, in Homer's The Odyssey, he goes there and he sees like all the dead, and it's overwhelming. And the movie does a good part, good version of this, where you see just like this army of the dead just in the distance for a long time. Um, and I like that. But the thing in the source material is that he sees a lot of people that he knew in life, and they kept that. They kept him meeting Agamemnon, for instance, and seeing some of his fallen comrades. One thing that I'm disappointed that they cut out was him meeting his mother. Like Odysseus meets his deceased mother. His mother died while he was away from home, and um, I'm trying to find the. It's a very great part of well, it's another one of my favorites where his mother speaks to him. Sunshine. I'm trying to find Wilson's translation. Yeah, I found it. Where he sees his mother. He sees his mother as a shade in Hades. Um, He also yeah, they also cut the Achilles speech, which is crazy. Achilles speech is very good. Like where he meets Agamemnon, he learns about Agamemnon's fate, that he was betrayed by his wife while he was away and killed. He also meets Achilles, where Achilles tells him that like you should save her life. Like I would rather be a slave or a peasant alive than king of the dead. Great line, great line. It's a shame that they cut that. It's a shame that Achilles isn't in this at all. They make reference to Achilles and Patroclus, but they never show them. Um, I would have liked a little Achilles Patroclus, a little okay, I could like, have that in there. Why not? It's a shame that they cut that, but whatever. And then so yeah, they also cut Odysseus encountering his mother, which I is one of my favorite parts of the Odyssey. And it's a super super sad part of the story. I'll read Wilson's translation where he asks his mother, "How did you die? How did you die?" Um, and I'll read her what she says. She said, "And that is why I met my fate and died. The goddess did not shoot me in my home, aiming with gentle arrows, nor did sickness suck all strength out of my limbs with long and wasting cruelty. No, it was missing you, Odysseus, my sunshine, your sharp mind and your kind heart that took sweet life away from me." And I remember reading that, and when I was in Pittsburgh in the snow, and I felt the tears. I felt the tears where, it's a beautiful, beautiful, like it was a very profound moment reading that passage of the Odyssey where I was like, wow, like I am feeling the same emotion that some person 3,000 years ago, thousands of years ago from a different time, a person that could never imagine the world that I'm living in, and I'm reading his words rendered from his from his, I guess Greek is still from his ancient language into a language he never knew of, and then reading it in a city that is totally unrecognizable in the snow, in a land, a continent so far from where he was from. And I was feeling the exact same longing and mourning and missing your mother, just like you miss your mom. And you're like, wow, I miss my mom, and I know, I'm aware that my mom is missing me somewhere far away from here. Damn, I'm gonna cry. The fact, like, I just remember that and just feeling like this profound, beautiful, beautiful sense. And I was just like, wow, like the power of whoever wrote these lines to cross space and time to reach me, and for those same emotions to resonate. Um, this man realizing that he was away from home too long, and his mother missed him, and you're just like, dang. One of my favorite passages of the Odyssey, one of my favorite passages in anything I've ever read. Um, and they unfortunately cut that, because that's really sad. That's really sad. That like that's a really sad moment where you're like, he was gone too long. And that's kind of the some of the themes of the Odyssey itself, is that like you're away from your family and loved ones too long, and that's something that you should treasure your time with them, because you can't get that back. Um, so yeah, I mean, anyways, that's a shame that they cut that scene, from Nolan's The Odyssey. Um, so yeah, they cut that. Let's see, what else do we got? Oh, let's talk about the mythological creatures. Excuse me, let me put up. I'll try to. I know we're like an hour in. I'll try to wrap this up. You paid good money. I'm talking a lot. I'm huge fan of some of the mythical creatures in this. The Cyclops, Polyphemus, awesome depiction. I think I talked about this already. Let me get like an ancient depiction. This is an interesting adaptation. Like whenever you have a Cyclops photo, or a Cyclops depiction, it's always interesting to see how they handle the eye. Sometimes it'll just be like, like it'll be like a human head with like one eye and just an eye here. Sometimes they'll have it in the center of the forehead. Come on, can I get a picture? Is it not supported? Damn you. To restream whatever I'm using here. Can I get you? Okay, here's an ancient Cyclops depiction. Yeah, less scary, less more cutesy. This is Polyphemus. Yeah, I like how they depicted the Cyclops here. That it's like really lanky and long and ancient. The sounds that come out of him is really good, and how they handle the eye. Um, I wish he talked. I wish he talked more. That's fine. Um, the sirens, I was a little disappointed with their depiction of the sirens. They handle the sirens well. Like, they make the sirens bigger and than they like a big thing, an interesting thing where the sirens, and this is something that's in the original Odyssey too, is that the sirens, the song of the sirens, um, the lore of it is is knowledge. You get knowledge, like they're telling you all the forbidden knowledge of the world. Um, like I think maybe this was a commentary I was reading or something, but the Song of the Sirens. Why Odysseus wants to hear it is that like he wants to have all the knowledge and he wants to know what the meaning of the Trojan War was. What was the meaning of all that loss and death? Um, and that's retained in the in Nolan's The Odyssey. Like that is they make the Song of the Sirens this very sad thing where like what I was talking about just a second ago with Odysseus's mother, that like you're mourning what you once had and you feel the loss, you know, how beautiful what you once had was. And I think that, like I said, I wish we had his Odysseus meeting his mommy for that, because that's a very that would tug at your heartstrings. That's fine. Or like meeting his father, you know, like I want more home. Like I wish we got more of Odysseus and Penelope, you know, like the Odyssey, the original Odyssey has um like almost like a sex scene between Odysseus and Penelope where he reveals himself to her with the olive bread bed. I think they cut that olive bread, olive bed, the olive tree bed. That he's revealed that like this is him, that's me. Um, and then you feel their love. Like I think a little bit of it is I would have liked more human moments. So sirens, they did a good job. They chose not to do the bird. You know, like in some ancient Greek depictions, they have like a human head in the body of a bird. I don't think Homer ever describes them physically, so it's kind of kept ambiguous. So, yeah, one of the big disappointments for me was Scylla. So this is Scylla here. Look, you can even read her name above her head, Scylla. Um, Scylla is a super interesting mythological creature in the Odyssey. It's one of the few mythological creatures that are described in great detail, where she has these dogs. She has like 6 dog heads with long necks, and I think tentacles. Do they mention tentacles or arms like an octopus? Let me see. I should have brushed up on this. So let's see. What does it say about Scylla? Does she have tentacles? Arms? Yeah, she does have arms. Yeah, she has arms and necks. And so this depiction is showing, and the necks are dog heads. They're like hounds, and she's specifically described as like barking like a dog and howling like dogs. So I was very excited to see her depicted. And her depiction is a bit of a letdown, in my opinion. They chose something very weird and abstract for her, where you don't get much of a look at her, and what you do see is like spider or rock like, and you just see like these arms come out and then go back into like a cocoon, a cave. Bit of a disappointment to me. Um, and then the last monsters I'll talk about is the Lystragonians, which are the giant guys. They're actually responsible for the most deaths of Odysseus. Like people typically think of the Cyclops being like the most damaging, with the sirens, or the Scylla and Charybdis. But like I think the most people die with the Lystragonians, which are these guys. Like, how do I describe the Lystragonians in Homer? They're just like these guys. They're like these big guys. They're huge guys that they live in like a fictional world. They live in like a weird fantasy land where there's never sunset, I think is the idea, or there's never, or maybe there is sunset. There's always crop yield. Like the idea, like to an ancient Greek, this probably meant a lot. Here's like an ancient depiction of the Lystragonians. It's from Pompeii. Um, I like the Lystragonians. I like their depiction of the Lystragonians, where they're like these big. Not a huge fan of the armor, you know, but like they're like these huge guys. They're just like really buff and like angry, and they literally like swim out to like, because in the material they're like throwing rocks. You know, they throw rocks at like the Odysseus's ships. In this, they're like literally tearing it apart with like their arms and like flipping it. That's fun. There's some fun stuff. There's some fun stuff in this movie. Um, but yeah, I've been talking your ear off. If you want, I can end it a little bit around here. So, final thoughts on the Odyssey, Nolan's The Odyssey. It's really good. I'm always excited to see an adaptation of ancient Greek stuff. Um, one thing, you know what I'll say? It did not feel ancient. This is a criticism of mine of Nolan's Odyssey. It's not a strong criticism because it's just the choice that they made here. Um, it did not make the past feel. This did not feel like the past. This did not feel like the past. This felt like modern actors in a kind of in it like with a modern script in a modern world with modern reality, like a modern morality. Like it felt more like a post-apocalyptic movie than an ancient movie. And maybe it's just colored because I like Fellini's Satyricon, and what are some other ancient movies that I like? It's the thing. There's not too many good ancient movies. Um, God, I hate to say it, but Alexander with Oliver Stone, like there's something about it, they make the past feel ancient. It makes you feel like you've been transported in a different time. Um, and this movie just didn't have it. This doesn't feel like the past to me. This didn't feel like antiquity or ancient or a different culture. This felt like modern Western culture, and that was the dialogue. That was the morality. Their morality is definitely a very modern Christian-esque morality. The clothing didn't help, and the sets didn't help. Like it felt very modern. It didn't feel ancient, which an Odyssey movie doesn't have to feel ancient. Of course, there's like that Odyssey adaptation where it's set in like the South, American South in the 1900s, I think, in the late 1800s, 1900s. It doesn't. An Odyssey movie doesn't have to take place in the past, but they set this one in the past, and they made a big point of having this related to the Bronze Age. They had people talk about the Bronze Age and see people, and I would like if you're going that route, let's go ancient. You know, like let's have ancient clothing, let's have ancient art and ancient social norms, ancient culture. It just didn't have that. Like I think the only time in the movie that it felt like ancient was maybe Travis, like the storytelling aspect, Travis Scott like banging his little staff on and yelling, and telling this shouting the story of Odysseus. That felt very pretty ancient. It felt very Homer. And then there's one scene where it shows the men on Odysseus' boat and they're like throat singing. They're like, oh, they're like doing some type of like, and that like it that felt like I was being transported into a different time and culture. But everything else like didn't feel ancient to me, which was it's a shame in my opinion. It's not a huge criticism of the movie. Um, it's just like I wish you would go that route. And maybe this is because I've been colored by other things where like they really do a good job of making you feel like you're just like, what am I looking? I'm watching, like it feels like I'm watching, I've been stepped back in time and I'm an observer looking in on something. Because Homer, the original Odyssey, the Iliad feels like that at times. You feel like you're reading something old. And it doesn't necessarily mean like in the translation. It's the sense of morality in the world that they're exploring, and that this is a world of magic and gods and unknowns and weird customs and morality that we find strange and odd and war and social norms, you know, like that aspect's missing from Nolan's Odyssey. So that's my final words on that. So yeah, if you I hope you enjoyed this little review. Thank you for supporting me and paying a little extra to watch it. I hope that wasn't too rambly. I feel like that was very rambly. Now looking back, I just talked for an hour 30. But yeah, let me know what you think about Nolan's Odyssey. I am definitely mixed on it. I'll give it let's say after I've talked so much about it, I'll give it a 7.5, or a 4 out of 5. Um, 7.5 out of 10, 4 out of 5, but 4 out of 5. You know, like it's good. It's not the movie I would have made. You know, if I had a huge budget like this and I just had a blank check to just do whatever I wanted, I would have done things a little bit differently. I would have done things a little bit differently. But it's a good adaptation. That's the source material is hard. The Odyssey is probably a pretty hard thing to adapt for many reasons. Um, and they did. Oh, ooh, I didn't even talk about the Cersei pig thing. That's an awesome depiction of that. Holy cow! Great job there. That was like super memorable. I'm gonna watch that again. That's a great visual for the transformation of the witch turning the men into pigs. Great, horrifying. Really leaned into the horror in some ways. But yeah, it's good. It's very good. It's very good. You can tell there was a lot of work put into a lot of stuff. I personally, there's things I would critique and change. And if I was in charge, I would make kind of a pretty different movie. But some of the changes they made are very good. Some are not so good. But on the whole, there's some great stuff here. Um, so yeah, that's my Odyssey review. I hope that made sense to somebody, and at the very least, you enjoyed it. So thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in a for real Trey the Explainer video. This is like Trey the Explainer mini, so I will see you later. Thank you. Goodbye.